I'm a policy wonk. Like I wake up in the middle of the night thinking about policy issues, parking reform, which affects small businesses in Elmwood and throughout Oak Cliff, housing reform. You know, we have a housing crisis in the city. And those are the kinds of things like what policies do we need to be putting out there to change and to make sure we're welcoming in the new neighbors and enabling small businesses. That's what I'm passionate about.
Welcome to the Hidden City Podcast. I'm Grant.
And I'm Doug, and we're here to share some of the incredible stories and people from Oak Cliff that you might not know.
We're going to sit down with some of the visionaries, craftsmen, and business owners who have shaped Oak Cliff into what it is today.
Oak Cliff is on the south bank of the Trinity River, a few miles south of downtown Dallas. While technically it was part of Dallas, it was its own city for a long time, and it still has that independent spirit.
We'll dive into the history and the spirit of this place, exploring the different challenges and successes that defined it.
This is The Hidden City, a podcast about the people and the stories that make Oak Cliff extraordinary.
Well, welcome to this episode of the Hidden City Podcast. We're super excited to have Chad West with us today, the District 1 City Council member. Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you. Glad to be here. Been to Wax Space many times and never got to join you guys in the studio.
Yeah.
So I'm stoked. I'm honored to be here with you.
First of many, I hope.
Yeah,
This
I hope so
is
too.
fun. Well, Chad, I mean, I feel like there's so many places to start, but maybe we can start with how you landed in Oak Cliff area and how you got involved here. You grew up in Southern Illinois, correct?
Yeah, exactly.
Tell us about your early years and some of your life.
Yeah, no, thank you. So I'm a farm kid. I grew up on a farm, not as cool as Elmwood Farm, but it's a little bigger and with like industrial crops like corn, wheat, beans, soybeans. So I was always a farm kid growing up. Ended up getting a scholarship from Army ROTC to go to college, and so went to school in the Midwest in St. Louis. And the Army actually sent me, after I got commissioned, to Texas for the first time. I'd never been to the state.
Oh, okay.
Had not traveled much.
Okay.
You know, my family would go to Florida every year, but we really, other than that, didn't really leave home.
Yeah.
And I came to Texas in the year 1999, which then was the record hottest month. Now, since then, we've had some hotter months, right? But then it was the record hottest month. I showed up, I had BD, my battle dress uniform, my boots,
Oh, man.
going to Fort Sam Houston, San Antonio, and it was miserable hot. And I was just thinking, like, why am I in this state? Like, how I could have gone to like all these other places, and why did I end up in Texas? And
that's
I
funny.
honestly hated Texas for about 2 years.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so did my service. I served overseas for a year, and then came back and I started exploring different parts of the state.
Okay.
And I don't hate San Antonio, but I really fell in love with Dallas and Austin and Hill Country. And eventually went to law school and came back to Dallas. And like a lot of people, I got to Oak Cliff as fast as I can.
There you go.
And was looking for a neighborhood that I could afford, just coming out of law school as a baby lawyer with no money. And found Oak Cliff.
Nice.
And I bought my first house. It was a little arts and crafts home, 1922, on Haynes Avenue in Kidd Springs.
Yep. Nice.
Needed some love, and moved into the neighborhood. It was in 2000. Oh gosh, let's see, 2008.
Oh, wow.
That's when I moved
Okay,
in the neighborhood.
Nice.
Yes.
Nice. So you have a law practice. You're in Dallas and in Oak Cliff. We were just talking earlier too about some of the businesses. You kind of have an entrepreneurial mind in this as well. Car washes. You work with family. Tell us more about all of that.
Well, one of the things that's really cool about Oak Cliff, and you guys know this, is that we have so many entrepreneurs here. Like, it's really the kind of place, if you are self-employed or you're a startup, or you're trying to get a business going, it welcomes that, and we cherish that. And it's like cross-generational ages, genders, ethnical backgrounds.
Yeah.
Like, it's very cool how Oak Cliff isn't really, I think, and I keep saying this and no one's corrected me yet, but that we are the area of town where we have the most entrepreneurial spirit and people doing startups. So
That's been like a recurring thing on this show. We hear it
Yeah.
from so many people we talk to.
Yeah.
And
We see it at Wax Space. We see it with different like
people
leaders in the
just start
neighborhood.
businesses.
and
they-
so supportive.
And
they
they're
help-
so supportive.
They help each other too. I think that's there's like an atmosphere of like helping each other out too.
We're always trying to
There's
put
like-
our finger on like, why is that happening here in Oak Cliff and
Yeah.
nowhere else?
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
a hard thing to answer in some
Yeah.
ways,
Yeah.
but I don't know. I'm
Yeah.
curious. What do you
We're
think?
attracted to Oak Cliff because it's different than other parts of town. It's not like
Yeah.
homogenous like
True.
parts of North Dallas
Yep.
or the suburbs,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And Oak Cliff is just it's a hodgepodge of people that want to be in this like dynamic environment,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I think that attracts the entrepreneurial spirit. That's
I
just
think
my
you're
take.
right.
No,
Yeah.
that's a good theory because I mean I do think Oak Cliff is fairly large too. We were talking about how I mean it covers a lot, but you kind of put this out and it does attract those types of people for sure. So okay, but you have also currently a car washing business with your family,
Right.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm a
Yeah.
recovering lawyer.
Okay,
I'm
there
not
you go.
technically
Okay,
practicing
Nice.
anymore,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I'm a recovering
Yeah.
lawyer. I practiced for a long time,
Okay,
and
yeah.
I don't remember how many years, but
years, yeah.
I ended up getting to the point where I started getting into adaptive reuse of projects. I know AJ Ramler was just on here, and nothing on his level, but I did a few small.
Oh, cool.
I can tell you what not to do as a micro developer.
That's almost more important sometimes.
Yeah, now why lawyers should not be GCing their own projects, because I did that a couple times with interesting results. But I got while I was being a lawyer doing that, I ended up doing a few projects with like good mentorship from some of the guys that have done a lot of projects in Oak Cliff, and saw that, and then that really just kind of led into the car wash business. There was a car wash for sale. In one of our suburban neighbors, and I looked at it and didn't end up liking that car wash, but a consultant I found talked me into the business, and now I've got 6 with the 7th on the way. One of which is in Oak Cliff, actually.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
The one just down the street.
The one on,
Keystone.
Hampton, right? Or is it?
It's
no.
Keystone and Polk.
Keystone Polk. That's right. That's right.
Yeah, but I heard we just have a competitor popping up on Hampton and
Okay.
Ledbetter, and
okay.
I've got to go check out who that is.
Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah, they're coming in.
But from 1 to 7, that's pretty awesome. How's growing a business like that been? And of course, you're working on it with your family too, right?
Right. So it's a business just like any other. It's we've got challenges with employees. Having employees is always one of the best and most challenging parts of the business. Seeing them develop and grow, and then you've got some of the bad stuff that comes along with employees that you don't keep for very long, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I'm with my father, and my sister also helps out on half my sites.
Yep.
And so that is my sister is amazing to work with. My dad and I, it's good and bad in some ways. I enjoy getting to like participate with him, but he's also very old school.
Yeah.
Doesn't want to spend money. Thinks that everybody should be getting paid about $9 an hour. He doesn't understand why that doesn't work here. And doesn't understand like why people need to take a break every once in a while. So it's kind of this old school baby boomer mentality of like, why wouldn't you want to just work super hard? I mean, yeah, you know that people in their 30s now, in their 20s, like they value different things than what am I? I'm Generation X. We're a little bit different. Baby boomers certainly very different. And you've got to understand when you're dealing with employees and also customers, you can't treat them the same way. You can't motivate them the same way as some of the older folks.
Yeah, working with family.
It's a thing.
What do you think,
It's
Grant?
a thing.
Yeah,
we get to do it too, Doug, don't we?
Yeah.
I love it. I wouldn't trade it for the world. But,
that's great.
and I think Doug has a lot of good gifts that that I don't have. So we balance each other. It's we think very differently, Doug and I, at times, which I think can be a strength. But it can also lead to us, disagreeing at times
on how to handle some of these things. Yeah.
But it is fun. Doug's really good at finding people and connecting them and getting them in the right place. And that's something I'm just not very good at, or at least I don't focus on nearly as much as you do. And
Dude,
it's how we get to build fun stuff. It's great.
Yeah, it's been a blast. I definitely think it's like one of those things. I'm sure you feel this way too, Chad, but you're like, you look at it and you're like, okay, we've made 6 car washes, or we've built this like neighborhood work club or brewery or whatever it is. And you're just like, this is, it's pretty. I can't imagine doing it with someone else. Like it kind of would feel, I don't know, like it feels sweeter a little bit, I think, in some of those ways.
Yeah,
so,
especially when you have the wins, but even like when you're going through the challenges, to try to get through those
challenges. We do.
You have a few of those.
Well, don't we all?
Yeah,
I always love the like, at least for what we've experienced in business before, is just like the startup-y moments where you're like painting a wall together at 10 p.m., listening to music. And
putting a phone booth together.
Yeah, or like stuff like that where, it's little things that you remember later on. And you're like, oh, it was really fun looking back and being like, that was kind of sucked. And I was tired and we were working hard, but you get to like look it back at it and be like, oh, that was
built all the hooks for like
more fun than some of the stuff we deal with now
at the brewery. And you're just like, my arm is dead. That's
the fun stuff.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, the adaptive reuse element of what you guys have done here is what I also love so much. I don't really, I don't have that with my car washes, and it takes up all the time that the city doesn't, and my kiddos. But it's if I had the free time, and maybe when I'm done with council at some point, I'll get back into that adaptive reuse, because taking an older building that just needs to be brought back to life and restoring it and then activating it, it's really amazing.
For a community.
And like you've done here, it's really cool.
Oh, thanks.
Well, we definitely got to give a shout out to Monty, who's really helped bring this place to life. But talking with AJ and others, it's there's a lot of old buildings, and you can knock them down and build something else, but there's something about old buildings that I think people are attracted to. So today's show is brought to you by Oak Cliff Brewing Co. Are you interested in unwinding and connecting with neighbors over a great beer? Then go visit Oak Cliff Brewing Co. They've got a great tap room with all sorts of great beers on tap. It's a full production brewery here in the heart of Oak Cliff. Visit oakcliffbrewing.com to find out what's on tap right now and where you can find fresh beer made right here in Oak Cliff.
Chad, tell us a little bit. I mean, you're our city council member. Last
time I checked.
Last time you checked. You're now in your third term. Is that?
That's
would that
right.
be correct? Okay. Kind of 2019, I believe, was when you first started. And what is it like being our council member in Oak Cliff here in District 1? Is it? I mean. I'm sure it's got its challenges. It's got like some amazing aspects to it. But what is that like role kind of like? What is that like?
Yeah, it's well, first of all, it's amazing. I'm very blessed to be able to represent the neighbors, the people I see every day. And what I love about, you've heard the term, all politics are local, right? I think all politics that really impact our lives are local. People so often focus on the national politics because there's so much glamour and glitz and drama there, and then the state is pretty close behind them. And there are some, don't get me wrong, really important national issues and some issues, especially at the state level, that can be passed, can really impact us. And if you're an immigrant, I mean, federal policy is incredibly important. And for those of us who value our immigrants as well, but on your day-to-day basis, the things that impact your kids, my kids, our families, the city is where things really happen. We have an opportunity to really get things done and help the neighborhoods, build parks. Make sure the roads can get you wherever they need to get you. Delivering water, it's definitely an underappreciated thing that the city does even by us, because it just happens and it gets done so well. Police, fire, and libraries and all those things. And so it's a huge blessing. I'd say one of the surprises is that I'm a policy wonk. Like I wake up in the middle of the night thinking about policy issues. Parking reform, which affects small businesses in Elmwood and throughout Oak Cliff. Housing reform, we have a housing crisis in the city. And those are the kinds of things, like what policies do we need to be putting out there to change and to make sure we're welcoming in the new neighbors and enabling small businesses. That's what I'm passionate about. The surprise is that I probably spend about 70 to 80% of my time doing appearances and sort of the more I think fun stuff, like the shaking hands and kissing babies and the figurehead puppies. And it's not what I'm wired to do, even though I probably, like, people kind of make fun of me for doing selfies and stuff. But it's it's a very important part of the job, just being present, showing up
Yes.
to things. And that was a surprise on how much of the job is more so just being somewhere
present
and being
and-
present and
yeah.
showing up to things, even if like your role is really just showing up.
Yeah.
So I've had to get used to that over the years, and I've had to find time to fill my like policy, intrinsic desire for policy reform. And I have a lot of great advisors throughout the neighborhood who are passionate about policy as well. So I've had to rely on them a lot, and it's come to good, I think.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I definitely would say I admire the way that you're in the trenches, you're on the street, you're very accessible as a council member. And I don't know if most of the other districts in Dallas get to enjoy that kind of thing, but thank you for being, there with everybody.
He's always been involved. I feel like you've shown up to neighborhood meetings. Like you've been, Oak Cliff is one of those places where it's like, oh, you see people and you like run into people and it's like, oh, Chad's here. Like that's one of the things is like, he's just president.
Well, that's one of the fun parts too, is like, there's kind of like the dog and pony show stuff, but like being in the neighborhood and like seeing what neighbors are doing or
connecting.
What I really love is, you had a neighbor over here trying to open a coffee shop and without going into super details on that, was being prevented from parking issues.
Yep.
And so to really understand the situation, I had to go visit the site, walk the property and the house, and our code was holding him back from doing what he needed to do. I think he ended up going to the Board of Adjustment to get the parking he needed. But that opened my eyes to the policy changes that we needed to do, along with some other examples. And so seeing that on the ground issue that we can impact and then enacting that change in policy, it's really rewarding.
Yeah,
it really is.
Yeah, it's awesome.
If you had to think of like one or two things right now on the top of your head that are policies that you're particularly interested in seeing change or continue to evolve for just Oak Cliff, what would you say?
Well, I think generally housing, our overall strategy on enabling more production of housing and preservation of our current housing stock should be our number one priority for everyone in the city. Mm-hmm. We have had an unprecedented increase of the housing prices of 43%. Over 3 years, ending last calendar year.
That's
I don't
crazy.
even know what it's going to be now. You see homes in the Sunset Hill neighborhood going for $600,000. Elmwood going for around that range. There's houses around the corner from my house near Bishop Arts that are going for $1 million now. Winnetka Heights. When I bought my house on Haynes Avenue I'm sure everyone's got this story, right? Who's been here a while. Haynes Avenue in Kid Springs. I bought it for $160,000, and it was a 2-1. Last time I saw on the tax rolls, it went for close to $400,000, and that's for a 2-1. Like it's hard to even have a family in that if you're a growing family. And
it's crazy.
How is that is not sustainable for keeping our mail carriers, our entry-level police and fire, our teachers, our nurses in our neighborhoods, if we value that, and I certainly do.
Yeah. So. And you think about how many people, too, are just moving to DFW and Oak Cliff, of course, discovering Oak Cliff and realizing it's the coolest part of Dallas.
Why are we doing a podcast on Oak Cliff? And people are like discovering more and more.
What are we doing? We're working against ourselves.
Well, Elmwood is like ground zero for that too, because there's been so much publicity about Elmwood. So
that's true.
I've got a good friend of mine just moved over here. She's a city attorney. She moved here from Oaklawn.
No way.
She's like, I want my first home. And
awesome.
I've read all about Elmwood. And she honestly was the city attorney who worked on the Elmwood zoning case that went through.
No way.
Oh, that's wild.
Awesome.
Yeah,
she got to learn
together.
Oh, that's cool.
She is, she's just over, I think she's Elmdale. That's where she
Oh,
lives.
nice.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's one street away.
Yeah, I'll introduce you guys.
That'd be great.
But it's people from all over the city and people moving in from California and
For
New
sure,
York, because they're priced down in those cities, are coming here. And we've got to be thoughtful. We don't want to push people out. Certainly, we want to welcome these new neighbors in.
Right.
And we have to enable more tools for housing affordability and preservation, and we've got to make it easier to do business with the city. That has been my mantra I get called a libertarian sometimes, which I'm not, but because I'm so just like city, stay out of my business.
Yeah,
Like just
yeah.
let me go do what I need to do,
Yeah.
to build this fence
Yes.
or,
Yeah.
build this sidewalk instead of make it overly complicated.
Man, something you said a second ago feels so right. I feel like I've also heard it, but just like that idea of like impact in politics being local. I feel like people always talk about obviously the glitz and glamour of like the national stage of politics, but I've heard that time and time again. It's just like, go get involved, go out and vote. Get like, if more people voted in their council, like member districts and like elections, it would be so much better. But
Absolutely.
people just don't think about that.
One of the
sometimes.
things I was really proud about, policies that I was proud to actually enact, hopefully it will be enacted, is when we did the charter discussions recently in the city to change our city charter. So I think decades ago, a long time ago, the city decided to do its municipal elections for city council and mayor in May of even numbered years, or odd numbered years. Sorry, May of odd numbered years, and so many voters forget and don't show up, and so our voter turnout is around 9% in most of the city.
Is it really?
So 9% of residents. The voter turnout, even though I represent roughly 90,000 residents in Oak Cliff, is somewhere around 5,000 people. Outrageous, right?
That's crazy.
It's crazy.
That is insane.
Cities who have moved their election dates from May to November of odd years, so it's not on presidential election years. It's not when it's super crazy partisan, but it's still in a November where people are trained to go.
Yeah.
Mesquite's done it. El Paso, Houston, they have all seen a double of their voter turnout. So
It's just a timing thing.
it's a timing thing. So the charter, we've changed it in the charter. The thank you voters who showed up supported that. Now the state for some reason has to approve the change. It's a state ordinance. And we have my senator, Nathan Johnson, is leading that in the Senate. And then Rafael Anchia has a companion bill in the House. Once those pass, we will very likely be able to enact November elections in the city.
Wow.
And that will probably happen for 27.
Okay.
Wow, that's a big change.
It'll be a good change for the city.
Because has that always been the case, basically? I mean, in terms of
Great question. I don't know.
okay,
Yeah.
That's
I mean,
fascinating.
more voter turnout. That's great.
Yeah.
Certainly as long as I've been here. And really historically, it's been known that the reason for the May elections is to really prevent voter turnout. It's
Well,
just
that's what I
voter
was gonna say.
suppression.
It's by design to an extent. Yeah. As you think of, I think of council members in Oak Cliff. Like you said, quite a few people that have like really cared about this area. Maybe in certain spots they've cared more. How do you kind of see yourself from, Scott Griggs was before you, and who was before Scott?
It was the district was divided up.
It was
differently.
divided. That's right.
We
That's
had
right. Yeah.
Delia Hasso,
That's right.
Dave Newman, Elba Garcia was a council member.
Elba Garcia.
A lot of people didn't know her husband, Domingo Garcia, was a former council member. Before her, Bob Stimson.
Bob
had been
Simpson.
here.
That's it. Yeah.
You know Bob?
Yes,
Yeah.
I know Bob. He's
and
got a few
He's
buildings
in
in
Elmwood. Yeah, I was gonna say he's in Elmwood.
Does he still?
guy.
I thought he sold
does,
those.
He might have
He may
sold
have.
the Balboa. Yeah. Anyways. Yeah, I know Bob, but yeah, Bob also. I guess going from that line, like what have you learned from maybe some of those people from before that have like served this neighborhood, and then other things that you're like, man, I'm glad I did this differently, or went for this, or kind of built off of this from them.
Oak Cliff has always been, before my time, and it will be after my time, really a trendsetter for the city. So what starts happening in Oak Cliff, and like the streetcar, for example, what's coming back, it was ripped out in the 40s, and we have one now.
Yeah.
Now the streetcar is going to get expanded through downtown if we get the funding for it, and probably to the zoo. So we're a trendsetter for that different type of public transit. We are a trendsetter without even meaning to be for general density. You've got great neighborhoods like Winnetka Heights and Lake Cliff, which have duplexes and triplexes that are mixed in and look like the single family homes that are around. This is wildly controversial in the city. I've got a lot of like political enemies because of my stance on general density, that it can work, and if done appropriately with design standards. And so it's Oak Cliff has already done that. We've had that type of general density since before any of us were born.
Right.
And
it's
we
not
live with
it's not a new thing. But it is a controversial thing nowadays.
Yeah.
But there are these obvious problems that we were talking about earlier. It's
Housing crisis.
people can't afford to buy a house in some ways, or there's just so many people here. You have to have some sort of middle housing option for a lot of people. But yeah.
So that's a trend. Traffic calming measures. This has been a big passion of mine, is putting in these little pedestrian islands when you're crossing. Like if you go by Gloria's, there's like a little island there as you're crossing Davis, which still feels like a death trap when you're crossing Davis.
But after a couple margaritas, and
you might be glad it's there.
Yeah.
Those kinds of little things like you don't see throughout the city as much as you should. Before my time and during my time, we put those kinds of things in. So we've always been a trend-setting district. I think we'll continue to be the forefront because our neighbors are a little more courageous, a little more entrepreneurial, and willing to try that, and willing to tolerate their council members who are, a little out there in the forefront on that stuff. Sometimes they are anyway. I hear both sides of it.
Yeah.
But I've seen that. I think what has been a challenge for our district is the far western part and the southern part, including Elmwood to a certain extent. There's been redistricting happens every 10 years where lines are redrawn, and they're generally redrawn to try to be racial opportunity districts. So where there's more like Latino districts or African American districts, and that still happens. It's the way it's done in Dallas. The western southern parts of Oak Cliff have every 10 years been redrawn in a way where it's a different council member who's like coming in for the first time. And a lot of those areas don't vote as well. So as a result of that, it's not any council member's fault, but as a result of that, the western part of the district especially has not had a lot of attention. There's a lot of infrastructure problems over there. There was no zoning in place in a lot of these areas forever, since like the 50s. The parks need help. And so I've spent the last few years really focusing on those areas and trying to get out into them. The West Oak Cliff area plan was a plan we started to talk to people about for like your long range planning. What do you want in terms of streets? And do you like how you Clarendon and Hampton Road, is that the kind of retail you want to have? Or do you want to maybe think about something else?
And this plan is looking into the future where it's like, hey, this is going to be kind of you're looking years down the road on this.
It's bringing in the neighborhood preferences now for the next 20 to 50 years on what they kind of want to see. We were we struggled at first because we started it right when COVID hit. I think that the task force we put together may have had one meeting, and then COVID hit, and none of us knew how to like do online meetings. Right. Some of us did, but I had people in their 70s. I had people, and
there's a million things going on during COVID. So it's like
people are scared. And so it got delayed. The whole work process did. We also had the challenges of like just engagement. And then how do you go out into the neighborhood? To forget the task force for a minute. How do you go out into the neighborhood and get feedback from neighbors? So it took a long time. It was a 2.5-year process. And it was also an area like half the size of this district that affected 44,000 residents.
A lot of people.
It's huge. And a lot of it's just, it's
the
good.
First group that had like a lot of opinions. I mean, it was like so much.
A lot of opinions, a lot of distrust, understandably, because it was Latino neighborhoods that had been, really mistreated by the city. They'd been marginalized, never communicated with for decades. And so, you got a preppy looking white guy coming out here saying, hey, we're going to plan your area. I mean, the first thought by a lot of folks is like, okay, you're a developer. You're coming to take my land.
Right.
And so we had to build a lot of trust.
It was a lot of work.
It took a long time, and that's okay. Like planning is like that. It's scary. You're talking about property rights. You're talking about change. But I think a lot of the neighbors who really were engaged from the beginning and stayed with us realized, all right, if we don't do it, the developers are just going to work around us.
Yeah.
Things are going to just happen, and we may not have our voice. So I was very proud of the engagement at the end of it. Like the beginning was a complete cluster.
Yeah.
But towards the end, we had more engagement than the citywide racial equity plan did. We had so much engagement, thousands of touch points, data points from people, putting stickers on when they could get in public again, stickers on posters on what they want.
Yeah, I remember that.
You remember that?
Yeah,
I think we
yeah.
did it here. Going into the survey online, showing up at meetings and giving opinions.
Yeah.
And it was a really good data collection for the city.
It's a really long, arduous process of collecting data, getting feedback, thinking through plans, and it's wild to think of how much time and energy went into that. But ultimately, a lot of people's voices were heard, and the developers, as they decide to do things in this area, will have a clear directive from the neighborhoods here that
and they heard it.
Yeah.
And the overarching thing we heard throughout all of Oak Cliff, the West Oak Cliff area, is we don't want another Bishop Arts. We appreciate Bishop Arts. We're happy it's there. But we do not want that in our neighborhood. And I think that the word that can mean different things to different people.
Yeah.
Can mean the 5-story apartments that are sort of looming over, or the replacing of like that neighborhood with apartments. Some of it is the gentrification, sort of the loss of identity of the neighborhood. But I think most folks just did not want that level of density coming into their neighborhoods. So staff learned from the good and the bad of the Bishop Davis plan.
Yeah.
And as we go through and we're doing the now the zoning that follows the area plan, they're going in and actually being very thoughtful about, all right, we don't want to create a situation where you're going to rapidly displace people by these big apartment complexes.
Yeah.
So how do you do it in terms of welcome people in a more gentle way?
Yeah. That's interesting.
Today's show is brought to you by Waxspace. Are you looking for a place in Oak Cliff to connect and meet other neighbors? Then Waxspace is the place for you. Come join the Neighborhood Work Club, and for just $80 a month, you can get all the things you need to be productive at work. Why work from home when you can work from a place with other neighbors? We've got cold brew, fresh coffee all day, phone booths for your meetings. We've got a podcast studio and a lot of other amenities here. So visit thewaxspace.com to learn more and sign up today.
So being our council member, and being so entrenched in Oak Cliff, what is it like working with other council members and kind of being all of a sudden you're so focused on our neighborhood, and then now we're playing with others on this?
It's a great question. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like that's got to be a change a little bit, or maybe, I don't know.
So I will tell you this, and you probably didn't expect this answer to come out of this, but as being a lawyer for maybe 15, 16 years, and then all my time in the military, certainly, lawyers that were trained to tell you the good facts and to sort of like not hide things, but we're trained to like win an argument and not necessarily and to kind of combat you in a combative way.
Yeah.
It wasn't until I got into politics that I got straight up stabbed in my back multiple times.
No.
I remember the first time that happened was
to your face. Yeah.
It was actually to my back.
I was gonna say.
It was and it was a lesson for me that I've learned a few times over.
Yeah.
And I'll touch on that and then I'll go to the positive side. But there was a gentleman who was on the bond task force with me that Scott Griggs appointed me to in 2017.
Yep.
And we were trying to get more money for parks and take money from this other pot of like facilities.
Yeah.
And there was a faction of us doing on the park side. There was a faction on the facility side. And I went to this appointee from a different district and I said, I was trying to whip votes, and I was new at it. I didn't know what I was doing. And I went over to go, I'm like, hey, we need you on our team for the parks. Can I count on your vote? And he said, yes, I'm going to vote with you. Looked me in my eyes and said he's going to vote with me. 30 seconds later, the chair of the committee came around and he called us to our table and he said, all right, it's time to take a vote on reallocating the funds to parks. The dude, like within 30 seconds of taking the vote, voted against me. After telling me to my face, he supported me. It was a lesson that I had to learn that the same rules of society, unfortunately, don't apply at the horseshoe. And You know, I'd like to think I haven't done that, but there's been situations like you have to compromise and you have to vote for things that you know, kind of hold your nose a little bit and do it, and to get a vote on something that's important to your district. And so it's politics has been challenging in that because it's hard to be a purist and actually get anything done. You've got to be you've got to compromise. And I'm a walkability guy. My density is I believe it's our way to being able to solve our affordable housing crisis and along with preservation. And I've had to compromise on like my new urbanist ideals to be able to actually be effective and to make sure our neighborhoods feel comfortable with sort of like gentle changes. And on the positive side, what I've realized is across the entire city, whether it's rich, poor, brown, black, white, whatever it is, we all have the same needs. We want to have and desires. We want neighborhoods where our kids can walk to school and walk to parks and feel safe. We want to have police show up when we call them. We want good roads and sidewalks, and like everybody wants all that. But some of the other stuff, like we are completely in disagreement on. And so like the priorities of Carolyn Arnold in District 4, like we are constantly at battle in a friendly way on different things. I remember at one point she was against the deck park, and I had to, during that same 2017 year, go to battle to save the funding for us to get the seed funding for the deck park. And if we had not done that, Scott might have been able to put it back in. I don't know. But he would have had to use his own political chips at the council level if I wasn't able to keep that in there for him at the task force level. And if he would have been able to at all.
Yeah, you don't know.
And so it's a battle. So sometimes...
It's fascinating.
And her fear was that a deck park was going to lead to gentrification. Very justifiable fear. And so I think at that time, she's since come around, but at that time, it was easier to sort of fight it. And just say, you know what, we'd rather the money go towards another park or something else than this brand new shiny deck park. So, it's
wild.
Just, but you think about the difference in Karen Middleton's district, District 12, which is far north Dallas.
I was about to say,
partially in Collin County, and it's very suburban.
The needs are so different potentially. I don't know, or at least the. It feels night and day a little bit different.
Kara has said, we don't, for the bike plan, we don't want any new bike lanes in the district. You can take those bike lanes and put them somewhere else. And she even said, I think District 1 would probably take them. I'm like, yes, my neighbors want them. Send me those.
And you're like, yes, you can
please. This was a public discussion.
Wow.
It's so funny, isn't it?
And her neighbors are completely, if she had demanded bike lanes, they would have probably shown up at her office and started yelling at her. Some of her neighbors. It's just our districts are so different. Our priorities are so different. We all come from different backgrounds, just like your neighborhood meetings.
They're a total mixed bag of everyone. It's kind of awesome. That's crazy. I mean, Oak Cliff in general, I mean, do you see is there a reputation within the council, or is there kind of like that a little bit? That example is just interesting to me because it's like, oh, we don't need this. Maybe District 1 will take it. And we're like, of course we will.
Yeah, no, we definitely have the reputation of being, like I mentioned before, sort of like rogue in terms of trying new things. Like open
the trendsetters.
Trendsetters. We definitely do have that reputation. And that's not just me. That's people, council members before me. It's neighbors like you guys. We have the reputation of being on the forefront of like change, whether it's good or bad. We have, if you look at the South, we're one of the wealthier, I think the wealthiest part of what's considered South Dallas. And we've also got a lot of poverty. And it's a lot of fear as well of gentrification and change. And so that dynamic kind of system that's going on is very real at the council level. Like we see it on a daily basis. But I will say this, like about my colleagues, I mentioned the stabbing situation, and there are some people that do that, but I would say overwhelmingly everybody at the Horseshoe, their heart is in the right place. They truly care about the city. It's just how they want to get to what the goals are of their neighborhood might be different.
That's where it's you can live with people that think differently than you, as long as there's some intellectual honesty, you're actually fighting for your ideals.
Yeah.
And then you go like get a beer afterwards together and can laugh about it, or at least be friends still. So I think that's kind of
Hopefully
cool
at
to
Oak Cliff
hear.
Brewery.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
But that's cool to hear.
Yeah, that is. It's like, okay, here are the people that run the city, and like they're getting to, kind of like still be friends. And
they may do things differently, or
maybe,
think about
maybe not totally friends, but like they respect each other enough to like, I don't know, be professional. I feel like that's like
I think like most people up there are, I'd say all of them are like are good spouses, good parents. They're good members of their community, and they care. It just may seem like we hate each other because some of it's for theater. A little bit's for theater. When Kara Mendelsohn goes and attacks an affordable housing project, that's coming somewhere in the city, somebody's got to defend it, or there is a vacuum in the room where it sounds like, and if someone doesn't speak up, it sounds like we all just agree. Right?
Silence can be like an answer in itself,
an affirmation, right? And so I'm almost 9 out of 10 times it's me battling Kara.
Wow.
And so we will spar. I will be sometimes genuinely like shocked in something that she said, and she's genuinely shocked in something I say. But at the end of the day, like we spar. I usually win because it's people know we need housing.
You're on the right side of the argument.
I think I am. But at the end of the day, like it's a little bit of theater, but it's a lot of it is like just a disgusement. And at the end of the day, we shake hands and we'll have a glass of wine.
I love that.
Or a beer at Oak Cliff.
Forget wine.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
She prefers wine. I think.
Yeah.
I don't think she's a beer drinker.
Yeah, maybe we need.
I like
wine.
your beer.
Okay.
Chad, what motivated you to enter public service in the first place? How did you get involved with all of this? I mean, this is a big life commitment, or like it's a big sacrifice of your personal time too. How'd you come to this?
Yeah, so it's kind of a roundabout way. I think I've always had the wire for service because like military service, was something I gravitated towards. When I first got in the neighborhood, and I was a lawyer, I was a litigator. I think I was decent at it, but it wasn't good for me. You know what I'm saying? Like it was bad for like my soul,
your person, yeah.
And I needed something to offset that a little bit. So I started doing charitable work. I started the Dash for the Beads.
Yeah,
do you guys
of course.
know that?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Running it on Sunday? No,
I'll be there. Yeah, I'm running it.
Are you running it?
Yeah, Ali and I'll be there.
Yeah, you smoked
should
me
come.
on the 10K.
Barely, man, barely.
Maybe I get all the kids and just like bring them in a stroller.
Push them in a stroller. Matt Glenn did that last year.
Nice.
He did.
Matt.
I think he did the 1 mile though.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. He was.
Well,
there.
you started that. That's right. Yeah.
I did with an old friend of mine, David Sassano, on back when Jack's Backyard was still a thing in West Dallas, and it was on the back of a napkin, so like just drinking a couple beers.
That's awesome.
And we started it, and that we could talk about the Dash. That's some wild stories, but it helped me sort of offset my negativity that I was dealing with my profession at the time. And that eventually led to me doing committee work on the Oak Cliff Chamber, which I joined, which I would highly recommend anybody joining. If you're not on the Oak Cliff Chamber, it supports local small business. And I ended up meeting Scott Griggs and getting on a committee, and realized that there was an opportunity to do more for the community on a bigger level. If I was in council. So for me, I don't have any interest in anything outside the city. My passion's here at home, and my family's here, and so that's really it.
That's awesome.
Well, Chad, thanks for coming on the show and for your time today and for your service. We just appreciate you, man.
Well, thanks for having me. Good times, guys.
Thanks for coming on. Good to see you.
Hey, thanks for tuning in to this episode of The Hidden City. We hope you discovered something about Oak Cliff that you didn't know. If you enjoyed the show, I hope you subscribe to it on YouTube and then follow us on any of the podcasting platforms. Also, if you enjoyed it, please share with a friend. And thanks so much for tuning in.